It says we're live.
Okay.
Hi guys. It's like so delayed, so I never really know what's happening. But hello. My name is Jenna Gizar, and I am here with some friends, and I'm so excited that you guys are joining us. I'm so excited to be having this conversation. So I'm the founder of Blessed Is She, which is a women's ministry, and yeah, I'm glad you came here. If you stumbled upon it, welcome. I'm joined by my good friend, Father Parks, who is Blessed Is She's spiritual advisor. Would you mind introducing yourself, Father?
Sure. I'm Father Parks. I'm a priest of Phoenix, Arizona, and I currently serve as the vicar for evangelization for about another 10 days, and then I'll be the pastor of a church starting July 1st called St. Teresa's.
Wonderful. Yes. And then I'm joined by three beautiful women. So glad that you guys are here. Would you mind introducing yourselves? Gozia, would you mind starting?
Sure. So my name is Gozia. I am a person. I don't know what I was supposed to say. I'm a physical therapist.
That's amazing.
I was like, what's important?
That's
I'm
a great start.
I'm Catholic, born and raised Catholic. Yeah.
That retweet. Okay. Well, my name is Chanel. I'm also a person. I live in Philadelphia. I used to be a youth minister for 3 years, but I'm currently applying for graduate school in Philadelphia, chilling here. And I used to go to Ave Maria, if that means anything, connecting myself to a school. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Chanel. And Patricia.
Hi, my name is Patricia. I'm a mother too. I actually just gave birth to my daughter, my second child, in January. I reside in Atlanta, and I am also a Catholic, born and raised Catholic church, the full thing, baptized, the whole thing, the whole nine. So, but yeah, I'm happy to join and, put in my opinion where it's needed.
Yeah.
And I think me and Patricia were confirmed at the same time at the same church.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
Sacred Heart.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Atlanta, Gazia?
No,
Columbia, Missouri.
Columbia.
Missouri.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so you came to Phoenix after. Oh, did you ever live here, Gazia?
No, I just visit a lot.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for being here and for just sharing a bit of your heart and your experiences. This was all kind of spurred from Gazia and me chatting on the phone, and I really appreciated that conversation and just your heart being open to just tell me a little bit more about yourself and your experiences within the Catholic Church. And so thank you, for sharing that with me. And I thought maybe if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving us a little thesis of that and what brought us here today.
Yeah. So I think this spurred from a post on Blessed Is She about just prayer and what to do during this time with a lot of racial unrest. And I think for me, in 2016, there was a lot of similar things going on at the time. And I think it burned me out so much. And it was a shock to me to hear some of my white Christian friends say some things. And then I realized, for lack of better, wow, you're racist, and it was kind of hidden under this Christianity. And so at that time for me, one, I went through a depression. It just took me out. Two, I had to just cleanse myself from people that I realized were not my friends. And so, and just kind of realized I'm no longer going to be kind or gentle or make anyone else feel comfortable. I'm going to speak up. And so fast forward to now, and I saw the post about prayer, and it just kind of felt, again, like coddling to white people. Yeah, you're okay with prayer. And that's all you have to do. But there's power in prayer. And I'm like, well, sure. That should be a given. And it felt like reading some of the comments, seeing people yes, feel validated. Oh, thank you for saying this. Cause I felt attacked because, and I was just I just couldn't take it anymore. And so, I I think I put a comment there, and then you reached out to me and we talked about it. And it was basically just me tired of feeling like when it comes to racial injustice, like I don't want to say the church, because we've had statements from like the bishops and everything, but like on the local level, it's like, we're just going to tiptoe around this. And I just felt like, we don't do these things with other topics of the church. But when it comes to racism, it's like, ooh, we'll pray about it, or maybe we shouldn't really talk about it. And for me, it was like, I no more am I wanting to coddle anyone or feel like an outsider in the church that I am a part of. And it's been so, for me, right, I can only speak for myself. It's been a process, because 2 or 3 weeks ago was the 4th time I was ready to leave the Catholic Church. I was like, I'm tired. I'm tired of people ignoring me, my presence, Black people. I'm tired of not having a voice or being seen. And I called my mom, my very Catholic mom, and said this to her. And obviously it was like, she's trying to say everything to like, don't do it. No, she mentioned something about how she has to endure. She's like, I have to go to church and endure. I close my eyes to, I'm like, I don't want to be a Catholic to endure. Like, I don't want to endure my faith. So she's throwing out these things, and finally she said, don't let anyone bully you out of your faith. And I was like, that's it. So instead of being pissed off and just, or like just seeking other places, I was like, yeah, let me speak up. And then you asked me if I would want to talk about it. I was like, absolutely. So that's kind of how this started. And I just wanted to share the different things I've gone through. I know it may be different from Chanel and Patricia, but I feel like Black voices in the Catholic Church are important, and we shouldn't ignore them, especially Black women, because we can hear a lot from Black men and be like, yeah, all right. But for some reason, Black women, it's pushed to the side. So I think this is important.
I should have grabbed a pen to write notes, because you said so much, and I want to.
My bad.
No, it's okay. No, I didn't think of that.
You were really like spitting. I was like,
yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I see. I wasn't prepared, so
I'm sorry.
Now let's get into it.
No, I grabbed my journal, so it's okay.
Let's get it. Yes.
Yes,
let's get it.
okay.
Wow. So can I talk about my experience? Okay. So I was raised, interestingly, so my parents are Catholic. My dad had like a conversion when he was an adult. And my mom was raised Catholic her entire life. My parents sent us to, like, my sister and I, to a Catholic primary school, so we could have good manners and, and like not steal and be kind to people. And then, but we were seasonal Catholics, so we really only went on like Christmas and Easter. And then when my parents got divorced when I was in 8th grade, they kind of just were like, we did it, and you guys seem to be, people tell me that you're polite, so we're good. And they were like, and we can't afford Catholic private high school, so we're just gonna send you to public school, and like we have done the best we can do. So then I went to public high school. And at that point, I really didn't believe that God existed. Even when I went to primary Catholic school, I just kind of felt like I was going through motions. I was like, besides my younger sister and another girl that was in 1st grade, we were the only Black people in the whole school. And so a lot of times I was kind of, microaggressed, made fun of, and the way that I speak, or the way that I conducted myself. And so I never really felt like I fit into like a Catholic community. I just was always isolated out from the rest of my peers. So when I was in high school, I kind of thought God didn't really exist, and like he was just a guy that people use to anchor hope onto. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I got kicked out of high school for not doing my homework and making good decisions. And and the only thing I was allowed to go to was youth group. At that point, my parents, they hadn't taken us to mass or done anything, but my mom said the only thing I was allowed to go to was youth group, because those kids do their homework, is what she said. So she sent me there. I was invited to an overnight retreat, and I thought that an overnight retreat sounded like a great opportunity to be away from my mom. So I went, and they had pizza. So I thought, why this sounds like dope. So I went and I met other kids that seemed like they were believing in something and that they had some sort of purpose. So then I started going to youth group again, started going to mass again, really in the beginning, just to meet other people, and to be in a community of young people that weren't getting in trouble from their parents. And so maybe my mom would let me hang out with them. So just committed to that community, and then eventually became committed to Jesus through youth group, and ended up going to a Catholic college. And the whole time interestingly enough, when I was younger, I felt isolated from particular Catholic communities. But when I was older, I started to get an idea that Catholics we're above politics. We're above, whatever. We're like the church. We have this enlightened sense of existing, and we just understand sin when it is in front of us, and we can confront it, and it doesn't matter what it is or what occasion we see it in. And we're just enlightened people. So I always had that mindset, and being Black always felt kind of uncomfortable, because people would always ask me if I was a recent convert, or if I had just come from Africa, or if my name sounds so ethnic, like I must have been from some sort of other place, and I just stumbled into St. Anthony's Church. And so it was always kind of awkward, but I never really paid attention to it because I thought the church was above it. I think, like you were saying, a couple of years ago, I think I started to get a little bit more frustrated because I started to see a lot of my friends and people that I thought were, we're Catholic, so that's enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're on the same page because we're Catholic, and rah, I fight the same battles. I'll stand outside of 40 Days for Life with you. I'll feed the homeless with you. So then you got me, kind of deal. And then eventually I started seeing people, and I was reading their posts and hearing them speak. And I was like, wow, you're actually kind of racist, and that sucks. And I was shook, because I'm thinking, man, it just really sucks, because you're I give so much of myself. I show up to everything. I go to the same conferences you do. I put forth that same kind of energy that you do in things, and I'm right along with you in the sacraments and yada, yada. And I just this is the one sin that you can't combat. I don't know why. And then as I grew older, and as I saw, Black lives and Black crimes against Black people be more politicized, it became a little bit more disheartening to see my Christian Catholic brothers and sisters align themselves with the belief that we're not just people that can be defended, but we're some sort of partisan issue. And it's hard to defend, because then we're talking about politics, and it's not black and white, and there must have been some reason. And I'm dude, with any other sin in these streets, I'm not given reasons. I'm not saying, he was homeless, but he might have been, he might have skipped a couple of his shifts from his job, and that's why we shouldn't give him. It's I understand, and so I think the older I've gotten, I have kind of felt like you have, which I was noting earlier when you were saying, there have been many times, because I'm the only practicing Catholic in my whole family. So, so it's already a bit of a challenge. And I think there have been many times where I felt being Protestant just sounds dope. I think it sounds I'm hey, I can listen to my favorite music. I can bump some Kirk Franklin. I can drink coffee. I can drink coffee while it's happening. I can listen. I can walk in and out, go to the bathroom.
You feel accepted.
Yeah, it's I feel accepted. And if I go to a Protestant church, I felt okay, the pastors will get up on their, in front of the congregation, and they'll start talking about racism matter of factly. as a
Yeah.
sin. They're like, hey, this sin is calling God a liar because we all have respect and dignity. Boom, period. And it's not like oh my gosh, Father, I can't believe you said that. Now we have to, it's just like, well, boom, this is what it is. It's a sin. We need to do better. Even if I'm standing in a room of all white Protestants, I'm still going to have a conversation with you because you're going to encounter other people that don't look like you. So I'm going to prepare you as a leader in your church. So there were many moments where I felt like, being Catholic was just hard because you're constantly, at least for me, I speak for myself, I felt like I was constantly waiting for some sort of statement. Like, it's like
Yeah.
you're waiting for the USCCB to say something, or you're like waiting for somebody that you look up to or some
Yeah.
leadership figure to kind of say something to somehow validate the pain that you feel in a community where you're like so invested, but you're just waiting for somebody to say something so that you don't seem like this person that's blowing up your social media and everyone thinks you're just being this like
Angry Black woman.
like angry,
Yes.
right? And I'm like, don't project that on me. Like, I don't have a right to be upset. And I feel like I don't have it's like, don't project that on me, but then also this should enrage you. And that part hurt me the most. I'm like, yo, this should enrage you because
it hurts.
it hurts, dude. And what hurts me, like what hurts your arm should hurt my arm. Like, why have I been like hurting for you and you can't even shed a micro tear? It just feels really hard. And so I think that's been my experience lately. And I've been blessed, thankfully, with like a couple roommates that are awesome Catholic women that have been able to like, that are white, that have been able to speak to me in a way that's very, comforting.
Yeah.
But I think as like a broader community, I think it's just, I don't know. It's like a long time coming. I think my issue is that there seems to be an allegiance to political identities. And because of that, there's a fear of even bringing up like a murder. I don't know. And it's and to me, like 1 + 1 is 2. But it just seems like it's harder for people, especially like my white brothers and sisters, to even bring it up because then they feel like they're being challenged. And then for me as a Black woman, I don't mind speaking on it because I mean, it's it's people that look like me, my family. But then like you were saying, it's hard to feel like you're constantly being told you're angry. And then somehow that's invalidating what I'm saying because I'm just like an upset Black woman that's enraged all the time. So yeah, so that's me. So
Thanks,
I have thoughts, but I want Patricia. I want Patricia. Go ahead.
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start because you both said so much. Okay. So, kind of like Ozia, I grew up in a house with, and I hate saying the word fanatic, and maybe your mother is not fanatic, but like as African Catholic mothers, they're kind of raised to be like fanatics. Okay, that's the best I can say. Almost like just believe in the religion and not really ask anything, don't ask any questions, just followed by blind faith. And I think that's how my mother grew up. Her sisters and brothers. Her older brother was actually an archbishop. He lived in Rome, and so in the Vatican, everything. So her family is very, very religious. But there were certain characteristics of my mother that I felt were they contradicted basically what you would, a woman of God, should do, and I, because of that, I think I distanced myself a bit from being religious because I felt like, they were kind of hypocritical, right? And I'm not trying to talk negatively about my mother or anything like that, but there was just like certain red flags. So I think because of that, I was always able to follow my faith, like believe in my faith, right? But not really follow the church. So I was raised Catholic. I always went to Catholic church. Like you said, we got confirmed together. I was baptized, all of that. I was able to do all of that. So, but I've always kind of I don't know what the term is. Critical. I was always critical of the Catholic Church, just based on history, the things like the Crusades, all the things that's happened. And it's not just with Catholic Church, it's with a lot of churches. So I strongly believe in, having your faith, having a house, like, a church you go to, because, to help you kind of stay consistent in prayer and just, in your faith, stay stronger in your faith. But I try not to, just because, it's a pastor or a bishop or whatever, like they're just, they're just perfect, right? Because we're humans,
Right.
we're all humans, we're all flawed. And so I think because of that, I never really depended too much on the Catholic Church guiding me or leading me, specifically on political issues. And I've noticed, especially in recent history, recent current events, specifically with chief and staff, like they tend to sweep certain things under the rug, certain things that just don't seem right. I don't even I'm even surprised to hear you guys say that you hear them bringing it up during sermons, because I feel like I don't really hear them talk about it. They always say, "Oh, pray for our leaders." Pray. It's just like a general type of prayer that they do, right? But they never really get too deep in discussion.
Right.
Like to see children, like immigrant children, getting locked up in cages, and it's been happening and we've never discussed it, right? But we always stick firm on certain beliefs, like with abortion. No, this is wrong. But like we pick and choose our battles as a Catholic Church. So I never really understood that. So for me, I just kind of stand firm on my faith, on what I believe in. And I just try not to depend too much on the Catholic Church to lead the discussion, because I just don't see them doing that. So because of that, I've been able to, I've never really been hurt. I've been able to distance myself, I guess, from a lot. Like I think we went to an outreach event when we were in high school. Like that, I think that was the only one that I've ever done. I was never really too involved in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So that's just like my personal experience with it. And I don't know. I in Colombia, here in Atlanta, I'm just used to being minorities in the church. And for me, that's okay, because I'm not there for that. I'm there for my God. I'm there for my Jesus. I'm there for my faith, so I'm there for different reasons. So yeah, it's hurtful. When you see other Christians, talking that way, you see that your fellow, I don't know, whoever they might be, roommates or whatever, being racist. It's hurtful, but at the end of the day, we have to understand that we're all flawed. You can't really depend on too much from others, and I don't know if that's the best way of seeing it. I don't know, and maybe I just choose to be ignorant or closed off emotionally.
I don't think it's ignorant.
I don't know.
Ignorant.
I think you just and that's the thing with Black people. I feel like we've just adapted to how people see us. Maybe, and it's like, this is what it is. And for me, you're not going to put me at the bottom of no totem pole. And if other people get the privilege to have community at their church, I almost cursed. I'm sorry, y'all. I deserve community in my church. You are going to recognize me.
But why are we giving them the power to make us feel like we're in the bottom of the totem pole?
Oh no,
that's my thing. I feel that way.
I feel like growing up Black, and again, I'm not knocking anything you're saying or anything like that. I feel like we have different perspectives, and that's completely fine. That's the point of this. I feel like I've always had to be a certain way or docile in certain situations because I'm Black. Like you were saying, the angry Black woman. So it's like, I'm not even gonna bring that to you. I have to hide a part of myself because I don't want a reaction in this way. And so for me, I'm no longer wanting that. Seeing that my friends can go to their church. For example, the first weekend that George Floyd died, and it was Sunday, and my roommate was listening to her church, and the pastor's sermon, like start to finish, and his congregation is like 50% white. They're in Oklahoma. It was just like what I needed. When I'm feeling this low, it's like what I needed. And then I go to live stream mass and it's like, the world's not burning, everything is normal. And I was like, no, I deserve to go to a church and in my faith feel seen and heard. And I feel like for me, no, let me say this. I feel like white supremacy, it's a scary word to some people, but white supremacy doesn't mean you're part of the KKK. It's literally seeing white as default. I am default. Everything else is a deviation. So when I go to the Catholic Church, the default is this type of music, this type of priest, this type of look, this type of conversation. I go to work, even in my job, they're like, no rap music, no, we only listen to this. They won't say it, but they don't want to hear Black artists. So I go into all these spaces in school. And like Chanel was saying, like she didn't even like she's thinking Catholics are above that. But then once you realize, no, it's literally the same thing in the church. Like I'm not tolerating that anymore. And that thought of like I am default. So if I'm a priest, I don't have to bring up racial injustice because my white congregation is contributing a lot of money. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. We're going to skip over all of that. And meanwhile, the Black people in the congregation, I'm going to speak for myself and my friends, are hurting, are crying on the inside. And just, I mean, those white people are getting their community, amen. And I'm just sitting there like broken, shattered. And I feel like, I think I'm tired of hearing excuses from priests or clergy that this isn't like their lane or something like that. And for example, my mom, she went to mass a couple of weeks ago at St. Anne's, and the deacon used his time for the homily to discuss statistics about Black people. And it's like it's not the police's fault, and Black people are bringing, like she's in church in mass. In the congregation, and the deacon is saying this, my mom is crying, and when he goes to sit down, there's people clapping. So we're just coddling these people, thinking that we're Catholics and above it, and all, as long as we say love our neighbor, we don't have to say who the neighbor is, then we're good, we covered it. And then my mom was so hurt, she went to confession, and the priest, another priest that was there, was like, oh, we handled it, we talked to him. But what about the people that were clapping? Are you gonna address that? Like, do you not realize that's a problem? And then the head of the priest at her church, I understand a letter was sent to him, and he decided not to discuss racism. It's this continual coddling, and I feel like, back to what you're saying, Patricia, like you don't expect that. I am now expecting it. I am now expecting you to say something, to speak up. If we're saying racism is sin, like, do you think you're gonna go die and go to heaven? God's be like, I know racism was uncomfortable, so yeah, you get it. No, like stand up, speak up. And I think that going to different Catholic churches and feeling like an outsider, again, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm just gonna go somewhere else. But now I'm not taking that anymore. Last Sunday, June 14th, Father John's homily, like he is hitting it head on. I know people are uncomfortable. That's part of it. He talked about what he lost when he spoke up against someone that he believed was falsely accused in Philadelphia. He got a big hit for that. And then turned out 2 weeks later, he found out that person was released and was found innocent. Like, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot, because Black people are already sacrificing a lot. So I don't care if you're uncomfortable anymore. I don't care. And I'm not gonna like say it in a sweet way. Like you can't keep tiptoeing over these certain issues. And it is the people in the congregation, because some people will say like, oh, they're not fully racist. But my whole time in St. Louis, when I was in school, I would go to mass with my cousin, who will no longer go to mass. And when the priest says, look kindly upon our sins, but on the faith of the church, we would always say skin, because no one would shake our hand during the sign of peace. The church would fill up, and our pew and the pew in front and behind would be empty. We would even get stares. People would stare at us. And sometimes the priest he would want to address it, but he would just say, you know, we're all the same. We got to love each other and let's
Crazy.
speak up.
I'm really
say
shocked
something.
to hear this.
Yeah, and even like someone was mentioning, my other cousin was telling me, like, when white people travel and they look up a Catholic church, they just go to the closest one. You know, I got to go to church on Sunday. But Black people are like, let me check these Yelp reviews. Let me see if there's enough Black people in this area. I'm not trying to deal with BS. Well, I'm just trying to worship God. And I know it's the same God, but for some reason, it seems like when it comes to the white congregation, it's not the same God from the one for the Black people. Because we're talking about justice and God standing up for me. And it's like, but not in that area. So I think I wrote a letter, and I wrote an open letter. I just wish I could just send it to every single priest in the whole wide world. But I just think that everyone has to do better. Everyone has to do better in all aspects of it, especially in the church. Sorry.
It's okay. You're good. No, I hear you, sis. I hear you. And I hear you like really hurting, you know? And it's kind of sad because I know you're somebody that's given so much, you know, into the Catholic Church, into the Catholic faith. So it's just disappointing because you're not getting, you know, that same energy back, especially from people that we're supposed to look up to. So I understand that. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just numb. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I think that people, they just want to be in their happy world, you know? They don't want you to come and burst that bubble, you know? And bringing up racism, bringing up, you know, the murder of Black men, you know, under police custody, it disturbs everything they know. You know, the police are supposed to serve and protect. It changes everything, and it makes them even have to look at themselves and how they've you know, use their white privilege and things like that. It's just uncomfortable, right? So you're doing the right thing by talking about it, making them uncomfortable. But my thing is, just don't expect them to give back in the same way. You're doing your part. You're doing your part. But I think the reason why you're so emotional about it, or you're so hurt about it, is because you're expecting something back and you're not getting it back. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like I haven't expected anything before, like you said, but now I absolutely expect it. And do I feel like there's I mean, if I'm being honest, is there going to be a change? I don't know. Maybe when my nieces and nephews have kids, but now at least I can say when I'm saying now, like Tupac said, like, I may not be the one to start the revolution, but I'll spark the minds. Like if I'm sparking somebody's mind, bet I'm all about it. Yeah. But I think that's all I'm holding on to. I don't want to say, I get what you mean. Like, I don't, I hate to say it, but I don't expect much, but I am going to keep speaking. There's a priest that my brother just sent me, Father Brian Massengale, who is a Black priest and openly gay. And he's talking about, he has a book about racial inequalities in the Catholic Church. And he, like, I just read an article about him, and he was like the epitome of don't let someone bully you out of your faith. And I was just like, it just kind of like renewed like that spark, because if I'm being honest, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. It's Saturday. Like, I want to be drinking a drink, doing a TikTok. I don't do TikToks, but doing something fun, you know, but I'm here because that keeps ringing in my head. And if 1,000 people are listening and only one hears me, I did my job. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I think you also have to be aware that there are those out there, they want to do something, but maybe they're just afraid, you know, or they don't know how because of their peers. So you saying something might be that motivation to help them kind of speak up as well. So that's why it's good that you're, you know, we're having these discussions and you're bringing up these topics, because although maybe like 80%, you know, of the white congregation might not do something, but that 20% you might spark something in them, and they might also create something to kind of help, you know, their counterparts do something. Right.
Is it bad though, to be completely transparent? I don't even know if it's bad to feel like for me, like, I totally feel you. There are a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't want to be here. I just want to like exist. Where
Yeah.
I'm like, I just miss being like, hey, you guys, just want to
Yeah.
like, let's just like watch Community and hang out. And I'm just like
It
someone
seems
like
so
this.
heavy.
Yeah, I'm like, I
Mhm.
just want to eat some ice cream and like
Yeah.
exist with the rest of my everyone. But it's almost
Right.
like a couple of days ago, I was just laying in my bed and I felt so overwhelmed because in one end, it's awesome to get to like, I don't know, my expectations are low, like you guys. My expectations are low for like what is actually going to happen moving forward. Because even in the past 4 years, I've seen things that I'm like, I feel like I'm living in a simulation. And I feel like
Yeah.
Catholics, we should be like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, woo. And even some things I've seen us advocate for, I don't know anymore. But I think it's hard because like on one end, I want to exist. And on one end, I'm really grateful to be able to say things, to speak out. But it's hard because I think with people being nervous, like you were saying, Patricia, like people being nervous about speaking out or saying something, and that kind of being their barrier. I don't know. Sometimes I'm kind of annoyed. I'm like, wait a second. I've given a lot of energy to. I was like a youth minister for 3 years in these streets. I have gone to so many conferences. I have spoken or not spoken. I prayed at so many places. I've gone to a million vigils. I have made a million homeless bags. I have like done it. You know, I've taken classes. I'm like, and those things. I've had so many uncomfortable conversations, and I am almost to the point where I almost feel like, why am I putting forth so much energy
Mhm.
and you guys are afraid to put out energy? Like,
Anything.
it's like I have tried so hard, and I don't know, it shouldn't be like a me you thing, but it's like,
No,
because
yeah.
we're all in this together. But I'm like, I almost don't buy it anymore when people are like, I'm just kind of scared, I don't know what to say. Wait a second, because you know exactly what to say if we're talking about boop boop boop. So, and if we're
Thank
talking
you.
about boop boop boopsin, then you're like ready.
On it.
You're fighting people on Facebook. You are ready.
Right.
So I don't get the you're scared or you're nervous. Like, what are you nervous about? Like,
I
offending?
think it's a lot of self-reflection too, because you have to look into themselves and
Yeah.
realize that they have these bias that like, oh, I may be racist. Oh, I've been silent when my family has said something. Like I
Right.
said, that umbrella of white supremacy, like we're expected to believe white is default. So I write, and when I write like a screenplay,
Mhm.
I was told if you are describing a character, if you want that person to be Black, you have to say Black. You have to say this. But if you just put a young woman, default to white.
Yeah.
Everything is default to white. And when you're challenged by that, like if you're, for example, girl, like in St. Louis, I reference St. Louis a lot because it's very segregated. I had Black friends and I had white friends, never mixed. I remember I would be like, oh, I went here. My friend be like, why didn't you invite me? I was like, oh, I was with my white friends. And she'd be like, oh, okay. Because she already knows. So like white people, like in a white space, it's a very different environment. And it's like, I'll go and this song by some white person is on and I'm like, who is this? You don't know who this person is? This is whoever from the Beatles. Okay. But if I say, oh, did you hear about, a Black artist? It's like, who, what? So it's like they default that white is what everyone should know. White is this is my world. I go, even we see an ad at like and they're advertising something, you just see a hand, it's a white hand. When you go and everything is white. So when you start to challenge that and tell them like, hey, you're operating under an umbrella of white supremacy, because that's what it is, right? It's like thinking I'm white is here and everything else is a default or variation.
Yeah,
it's like clutch pearls, like impossible. And then they immediately like, I'm not racist, I'm not this. I mean, then what is it? Like, what do you think you are? Like, and I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm literally just saying like, you have to recognize these things. And I'm thankful I have had white friends that before this, from jump, like a conversation like this with them would be a regular Tuesday. And I'm thankful for those people. But that I feel like everyone else, it's like you're accusing me of something. And it's like, I'm just wanting to recognize, I want you to recognize your privilege in this world. I want you to recognize that we in the US and probably other countries, we do operate under an umbrella of white supremacy. White supremacy does not mean the KKK hood. It just means I am default and everything else is a variation. I feel like once white people can get past that, then we can move on. But there's certain people I'm not gonna argue with a brick wall. So those people got quick. I'm not dealing with it anymore. I'm not gonna deal with the headache.
I mean, Jesus said, like, to his disciples, hey, if you're going to these towns, I've been reading that scripture to myself all the time. Like, if you're going to this town, this is abridged. If you're going to this town and you're preaching and people aren't listening to you, dust off those sandals, boo, and move on to the next.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
With people that I encounter in my DMs that are, you think, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm dusting off my sandals. You are in a place that only God can reach. And I will pray for you and be blessed because I can't.
Block and bless.
Yeah, it's like, because I
can't.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Why is it only Black people in this meeting right now? Like, why are we not getting opinions from Caucasians from the Catholic Church?
So
because this is a problem, right? We're just discussing it within ourselves, within our community. Like they need to be part of the conversation too, right?
And I fully agree. But with this space was for Black women to speak, because I feel like sometimes people need to just listen. And I'm not looking to hear you say, but what about, but what, no, like I am here with 2 other Black women to talk about our Black experiences. This is being live recorded and they have the option to watch it. If you want to talk further from there on some intelligent conversation, I'm all about it. But this space specifically is for Black women. And for me, I can say I appreciate that because I don't want to hear an outside voice. I don't want to see somebody's white tears. I'm not here for that right now. I want to, because even what Chanel is saying, even what you're saying is information for me, like, because we all obviously there's shared experiences, but it's also different experiences as well. And I feel like having those perspectives of us 3, and there's many more, is important for this specific,
I agree,
this specific Zoom conversation.
Okay.
I'd also say that
That's a good point.
you can't see it, but there's a ton of people streaming, writing things in the chat to the side.
Oh my gosh.
Tons of comments.
I feel like I'm only talking to you 2. I'm like, yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking like just a regular Zoom conversation. I don't even know.
It's being recorded, yes. I feel like you've done a really good job just expressing your experience of being Black and Catholic in America. And I feel like all of you have also expressed frustration, sadness, and really just not expecting much from the church in this. And you've basically gotten used to it. Just kind of like, I'm not expecting a whole lot. And then you had mentioned earlier, Chanel, how the idea of becoming Protestant seems kind of dope sometimes. Kirk Franklin, drinking coffee during service, all this. So my very simple question for all of you is, why are you still Catholic? Like, what keeps you going?
I was actually going to ask Chanel that when she was talking about how, she's dealt with all these things. Like, when is the breaking point?
I mean, for me, it's like there have been, when I started going to youth group and my mom was like, wait a second, you're hanging out with all these people and they're religious, because my mom's spiritual, not religious. And, you're hanging out with all these people. That was kind of weird. That was a hard 2 years. And then going to a Catholic college was like, you would have thought I was, leaving to become Amish or something. It was crazy. And then saying I was going to be a youth minister was insane. And, and then still being Catholic now is insane. I don't know. I think like for me, God has just put his hand in my life with giving me a community of friends that keep me accountable in a way that if it was up to me, I would have dipped a long time ago, because it is way easier. Especially like my family's been nothing but supportive now that I'm older and they see I'm like committed to this old lifestyle. But it's like having friends that can kind of keep me accountable and say, hey, like, I know it's really hard. I hear your frustrations. I know that it's been Sunday after Sunday and we go to this church down the street and the priest is just talking about like, how we're going to go to a soup kitchen, and that's all his homily is about every week. And I know that's annoying. And I know that you really don't want to go, but like, the sacraments are there. Like they just keep speaking that life into me. And honestly, I have been at the point many times, to be completely transparent, where I can't speak into myself. Like even prayer seems dry. Like I can't receive whatever God is kind of trying to give me one-on-one. And I have to receive from people around me. And thankfully God has given people around me that can speak life into me in like many moments. Because if it wasn't for like my friends and when I was younger, like my youth group, and then when I was in college, like my peers, and now as an adult, like my roommates, truly, if it wasn't for those communities, I don't know if I would still be around. And just learning about like, just remembering how powerful the sacraments are and remembering how much I love like God and the saints and Mary. And I just keep telling myself. And there are times when I'm like, God, like I don't know. It's just hard. I know that God's hand is in this, and I really can't explain it more than just like him putting presence in my friends and my community, and then him just giving me like an unbelievable amount of grace, because I really can't, if it was up to me as Chanel, I would have been hanging out with my mom at the Journey Church like 10 years ago. But but I really feel like God is giving me this grace to just keep pushing on. For what reason? Especially now, I truly don't know. Sometimes I ask myself, like, I don't know what the purpose is of me being in a space that feels more isolating now than it ever has. But I don't know. I just keep pushing. I think it's just God giving me that grace. And but I won't lie and say that I'm like, God gives me grace. I hop up every day, drop to my knees, pray a rosary, and I'm like going to mass. But it's like, there are some Sundays when I was right out of college that I like didn't go to mass. I lived in New Orleans, which was like Catholic everywhere. But it's like, I didn't go to mass some Sundays because I was like, you know what? I'm just kind of over this whole scene. Like, I feel like I'm not appreciated. I feel like nobody really knows me. Nobody really wants to know me, and I'm over it. But yeah, I think just God's grace, and yeah, that's pretty much why I'm still in it. So
yeah, like I said, I tried to leave 4 times, and each time, I remember one of the times was around Mike Brown, and I went. There was like confession, like a mass confession, and I went up there ready. And I went to confession. I was like, I'm pissed off. I'm mad. No one's talking about it. I was ready for the priest to be like, but he was like, you have righteous anger. And I was like, oh. And and so I stayed. And then the last time was a couple weeks ago, where I was talking to my brother, and I was like, if I don't hear anything in the homily, I'm leaving.
Yep.
And then Father John was like saying all these things, and then literally like the last thing my mom said, not to let people bully you out of your faith. I do believe in the sacraments. I look at it like this. I'm a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and I joined in St. Louis citywide chapter. And there's like in sororities or whatever, there's always people that aren't a good representation of the sorority. So I thought about that, and I was just like, is this what I want to do? But then I went back to what the sorority was founded on, the principles. And I was like, yeah, I believe in all that. There's people that aren't living that out, but I'm not going to not be a Zeta and not join, because this is why I'm here. And it's the same with the Catholic Church. This is why I'm here. There's a bunch of foolishness around. But if I have to be the one to say something, and there's another Black girl in high school that's like, I'm tired of this, and she sees me right now and I'm giving her life, bet I'm all about it.
Okay. I mean, for me, honestly, you keep saying the word default. I think at this point, I'm just a Catholic by default. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's just out of convenience, I was raised in a Catholic church. It's what I know. And so that's where I attend church on Sundays, And so like I you were talking about religion versus spiritual. I know, my spiritual belief. I know my strength and my faith in God. And so that's just what I base my daily life on, And so I feel that I need to have some kind of connection with some kind of church to kind of tie everything together. So I go to the Catholic Church because that's all I know.
That's all you know. Yeah.
Honestly, that's basically the truth. So
Yeah.
I'm
Makes sense.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. I want to just return back to something you said at the very beginning, Gosia. You talked about some events that occurred in 2016. You felt like your white Christian friends were responding to it in a way where you were kind of surprised, like, oh, that's racist. And I felt like both you, Chanel, and Patricia were nodding when she was saying that. And also, you, Chanel, talked about how, people, 40 Days for Life, you'd be out there praying, or Soup Kitchen, I'd be out there serving right next to you. But then when it came to racism, suddenly they're not there, and I'm giving all this energy to you, and I'm not getting it back. So in light of all that and just hearing that, I'd love for you, the prep for this question is, Chanel, you said you felt like you were waiting for something, like I was waiting for something, either a statement or we would arrive. So I'd love to hear from you three, what is arriving for the Catholic Church? What does that look like for you? Somebody once said, my favorite definition of vision is a picture of the future that produces passion in people. What's a picture of the Catholic Church in the future that would produce passion in you, that this is what I want my church to look like?
Can I ask you a question in return?
Sure.
So since this has started with the George Floyd and everything, and people are talking about like educating yourself, like what have you done to try to educate yourself or bring more attention and awareness?
Yeah, so I've listened to probably 25 hours of stuff on the internet. Like I do a lot of learning through podcasts, through YouTube stuff. So I've spent probably 25 hours just reading stuff, watching stuff, just trying to learn about the situation, trying to reach out to people, listen to people. So yeah, I would say that's what I've personally tried to do.
So that's what it looks like for me. Like an actual effort, not just talking about it, but like, what are like, okay, if there's are we going to join a protest? Are we going to raise funds? Are we going to like it for it to be treated like any other issue, for it to be treated like, okay, this is a sin and this is a problem? That's literally it.
I agree. I think just having the same kind of energy that we have with other sins, if we're talking just from like, sin to sin, I think if we could just give it that same kind of energy, I really don't see, I think Gloria Purvis posted this, and it's like one of my favorite things that she has said. And she said that God gives, so racism is a sin. God gives each one of us respect and dignity. Racism asserts that only some people deserve respect and dignity. So racism is calling God a liar. Period. So racism is a sin. I don't know, like 1 + 1 = 2. Racism calls God a liar. So it's a sin. And I just think for me, it would just look like coming at it with the same kind of energy that we do other ones. And I think if we're willing to be a community together, like it kind of sucks that we're at a point where, like you were saying earlier, where you feel numb, it's like, it sucks that we're kind of at that point. I've been at that point many times where I'm like, you know what? I tell my white roommates, we'll go to mass and they're like, oh, I really hope that he says blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't know. I don't care if he does. I don't care if he doesn't. I don't think he will. I'm not going to put my energy in it. I don't care if this like big Catholic platform says anything, because I don't know if they will. And I don't really want to put my energy into it. I'll go to conferences like NCYC, which I had to take my students to a lot when I was a youth minister. And you're talking about thousands of Catholic teenagers, thousands. And you have one breakout session about like the liturgy difference of like a Eurocentric liturgy and an African liturgy, and that's your one breakout session in regards to like racial differences or any kind of difference in the church, or you have Paul J. Kim talk for 20 minutes and that's it. Like I just feel like, I don't know. I think my expectation, like you were saying, is just for it to be exactly how you educate yourself. Treat it as anything else. You would listen to a podcast, watch the news, read a book. I don't ask homeless people how they're homeless and what it's like to be homeless and how I can help them stop being homeless but it almost feels like with racism is this energy of like, well, Chanel, like, have I been racist and how have I been racist? And can you detail for me in specific ways as to how I cannot be racist and what I can say? It's like, read a book, like, like read a book, like go on Google, like it, like,
child.
like just just give it the same kind of energy that you would anything else. You wouldn't come up to an elderly person to ask them what it's like to be old and how you can treat the elderly better. You just do it because you know how to love people because they were created in the image and likeness of God. So come with that same energy. So I think that's what it would look like for me. Just like be a normal person, exist in the same way that Black men and women and brown men and women have been existing in your church, where we just do things because we know how to do it because it just makes sense. Like, I don't understand how it doesn't make sense unless you examine your mind and say, it doesn't make sense to me because there's a bias. And that doesn't mean that Chanel's telling me I'm racist. That just means maybe I've had some prejudices that I need to work out in my mind. And then I won't have to text my one Black friend that I talked to 10 years ago and ask her how to not be racist. Like, you know, I think just maybe then it will connect a little bit more, you know? I think there's just been missing connections, and if people can just give it the same kind of energy, that would be great. So that's me.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about the church recognizing it as, you know, we see each other as one, right? The body of God as one. So when one part of the body is infected or hurting, right? It hurts the whole body, right? So I think the church needs to start seeing it like that, and not just an issue that's happening to our Black or colored brothers and sisters, but it's an issue that's happening within us, within our community, right? And I think in the same way, that's how they can kind of preach the sermon. Just like, you know, we have any other issues, you know, with murder, abortion, things like, we bring that up every day because it's an issue within, you know, within the community, within the church. And so in the same way, this racism should be an issue within the church. So it should be brought up like that, and not just their problem, you know, or let's just help them in their situation. No, it's all of our situation. And I think that once we start seeing it that way and bringing it up that way, then I think it's also going to help, you know, unify us in a way. So
I agree.
So if I could just review for you, Patricia, it's like, if we're all members of the body of Christ, then it's our problem. And we need
exactly.
to be, and for you, Gozia and Chanel, it's everyone has to, if they want to be a part of the solution, they have to take it upon themselves to do the work, to educate themselves, to learn. And as you said, Chanel, it's not just walking up to a random Black person and interviewing them. It's like, hey, if you want to learn more about abortion, people, you can figure it out. You can go do work. You can get passionate about it. You can learn. The same thing's true with racism. You can get passionate. You can learn about it and educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions? Okay. We've been at it for about an hour. I just want to close by just asking, is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say? Is there something like before this started, you thought, I really hope we talk about this, we really mentioned this? It's already just kind of a wide open. Is there anything that you wanted to say, didn't get a chance to say?
Can I just say something that's been resting on my heart? And I don't know if this is going to come from, I'm going to make it come from a place of the deepest part of my heart with Charity. As we keep going, moving forward, something that I've just been wrestling with a lot is, if someone brings up racism, if we talk about it, or if we're disturbed, please stop diverting conversations and giving me statistics about other things that hurt Black people. Please. It is harmful. It's annoying. It's not the point of what's happening right now. We should be able to see an issue and not feel like we need to pivot and give another person another stat to then be like, to make ourselves feel more comfortable and less weird. So, you know, please stop diverting from the issue. If I'm talking about a man being killed on camera for 8 minutes.
Don't bring up Black on Black murder.
Please do not bring up
because Black on Black crime is just crime.
There it is.
We don't say white on white crime. We don't say
Exactly. I was
anything
gonna say, or Asian on Asian. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
there's
crime.
It's every
Stop doing that.
community culture has crime.
It's like, I believe abortion is a sin. I would love to get to a time when women don't even need that as an option. But please stop telling me about Margaret Sanger's racist past and how abortion kills more Black people than anything. Please stop, because it's not the conversation. It's not that we don't care about that. It's just that you're saying that because you don't want to confront an evil that exists that you might have reside in your own heart. And that has nothing to do with me. So I think if I were to just say anything, stop pivoting the conversation. It's hurting a lot more people than it's helping. And honestly, it's guiding the ignorant into deeper paths of ignorance. And it's not helping any part of the conversation. So that's one thing I would say. And also, thank you for having me here. And this has been great. And I'm like, woo, a positive note. This has been great. And I'm very grateful to be in an opportunity where I can converse with two other Black women, because honestly and truly, I don't even see a lot of y'all in these streets, and my parish is in Philadelphia. So thank you for having me here. And I think there's a lot of work to be done. My expectations are pretty low, but I am rooting myself in that God has already conquered the world. And I'm like, hey man, at the end of the day, the world is my ship. So hey, if that means that this ship is leaking a little bit and whatever, I honestly, whatever. So thank you for having me here, and to end on like a good note. So thank you.
Yeah, and just so I understand, Chanel, so it sounds like when you're hurting about this, when you see the sin of racism, when you're disturbed by it, you share that with somebody. And that moment, you want to be heard. You don't want statistics. You don't want sociological studies. Mm-hmm. And perhaps in that person listening to you, they might be challenged. It might be uncomfortable for them. But that's actually much more helpful than saying, well, have you read this? Have you thought about this? Like, hey, my heart's hurting. Just listen to me,
Yeah, and I'm like, just listen to me. Just listen to us. Listen to my peers that are trying to say something. Like, stop telling. But the thing is that by speaking on that and diverting from conversations, I've realized through many of those conversations with my white peers, it is never to help me. It's never to help my brothers and sisters. It is always to appease themselves in this way of like, well, I'm going to let you know that I know that abortion kills more Black people than police brutality. And you're like, okay, well, thank you, Susan. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm trying to say blah, blah, blah. So it's like, and it's always to help them kind of move on from what I'm trying to say.
And demean your feelings almost like.
And so it's like, don't minimize what I'm saying. Don't minimize what we're trying to say. Rest in it. The same way I have to rest in not being able to go on Instagram and just watch tasty cook videos. I have to go on Instagram and see a man that was a father and a brother and a son get killed on live television. So like, if I have to rest in it and I'm your sister and you want to call me sis and giggle on my couch and laugh about how we're blah, 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 then you should be able to rest in it too. And we should hurt together. So, stop changing that combo.
Yeah. I feel like if you can't find compassion or empathy in your heart after seeing a man have someone kneel on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, there's a bigger problem. I will pray for you because that devil might be inside of you. I don't know what to tell you. But also, I want to say that we obviously are our own voice and experience. If you are searching or having a difficult time with this, don't look for someone to validate you. For example, Candace Owen, like white people love bringing her up. But you have to know that like white supremacy needs those, I'm not gonna use that word, those certain people.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, to like validate their, so you have those Candace Owens, you have your sometimes Kanye. I don't know what he's doing right now. But you have those voices for a reason. So when you go to those voices to be like, see, this Black person said, like, I want you to realize what you're doing. You're just looking for validation. You're not actually trying to listen or make a change. And again, those people, like, I can't have a conversation with you. If something is not your experience, then you have to listen. Like if I'm talking about experience when a man did something and you're a man, you can't be like, well, let me explain. We don't do that with the Me Too movement or anything. So don't sit there and listen to try to explain. Like you really have to listen.
Yeah. For me, I just want all white people to know, like, the empowerment of Black people does not mean the endangerment of white people, okay? Like, because we're trying to empower ourselves doesn't mean all of a sudden, there's no use for white people in this world or we're gonna take over and like, it's not, okay? So I think that's the biggest fear. It's like seeing these group of people, this movement, all of a sudden uprising and just turning everything over. At the end of the day, we are still going to be minority, but we still deserve a voice to be heard. We have value, and we should be allowed to believe in our value. That's it. It's nothing against you. It's nothing against you. Okay. It's just what it is. So that's
Don't
all
get
I want to say.
defensive. Yeah, we
Don't
just
get
want equality,
defensive,
not revenge, equality. Period.
That's all.
Wow. Yes.
It's not that deep.
I feel that it's not that deep, you guys.
It's
Like,
really not.
he's like, I love white people. I love. It's like,
I have two white sister-in-laws. I know that's not the case at all. Yeah,
I've watched
I
every
just don't
season of
understand what the
Friends.
complicity is.
Yeah, it's like, I watch every.
Ross and Rachel. I know what happened.
Yeah, it's like, I know what happened between Ross and
Yeah,
Rachel.
white people just saying, show me that same equal respect. Give me that same
Yeah.
energy.
Oh my
Period.
gosh, retweet. It is not.
Whew.
We love y'all, but we are tired of making y'all feel better about yourselves. It is
Yep.
not the time. Help us feel good about ourselves for a minute. We
Thank
can help
you.
each other. It's not that deep. Yeah.
And I also want to make it clear, because I know I was saying that I have low expectation. I don't have low expectation for the movement, because I'm seeing a lot of action, a lot of policies being implemented. So I really do see that this is it's different than what we've seen in the past years. I have low expectation within the church. Okay. A lot of the leaders that I'm seeing, I'm not seeing them coming from religious backgrounds and, from the church. And that, I think that's where our frustration is. So I do feel like there is a change happening, and it's going to be different it might not be completely eradicated for our children, for their generation, but I see it being a bit different. And I would just like to see, and I think, it's Gozi saying, Chanel is saying, we just want to see the Catholic Church also lead in that movement and make us feel like we are also relevant within the church. So,
Yeah.
Great. So for all of you, it's not a competition. Somebody doesn't have to win, and somebody doesn't have to lose. And Patricia, there are reasons that you have hope, but still, in the church, we could be a lot better.
Right.
Great. Well, I just want to say before we end, thank you so much. And I'm not just saying this. I feel like I've been changed by this conversation, just listening to all of you and how honest and vulnerable you are. I'd say a big takeaway for me is something you said, Chanel, about in psychology, it's called gaslighting. Gaslighting is when somebody tells you about an experience and you don't validate it. It makes them feel like they're going crazy. It's like, are you not seeing this thing? Like, how are you not? And how painful that is. And so anyway, it's just giving me another reminder that when somebody comes to me with hurt on their heart, it's just in that moment really trying to meet them there, just love them there. Before we try to do anything or fix anything, just loving people. So thank you so much for all of you for your honesty. Jen?
We forgot to pray.
Oh yeah, we can.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was like, what about the prayer?
We,
Take charge around here.
Yes.
Darn it, not me.
when we started, we were off the ladder. We were like,
Yeah,
introduce yourselves. And then 25 minutes later, I was like, we'll pray at the end. Let's just. Would you like to say anything? Or?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for just doing this, and I think that this takes courage to share your story and to come on here and tell us a bit about your experiences. And so I just really appreciate each one of you sharing, and I'm looking forward to continuing to grow, continuing to have good conversations about this. And so thanks for modeling that for us as well, just like your honesty and speaking the truth, even if
Thank you for having us.
even if it might be, uncomfortable, but the importance of speaking the truth and people accepting it and hearing it. So thank you.
Shall we pray?
Yes.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
God our Father, in the name of Jesus, I send your Holy Spirit upon us. Please fan into flame the gift you've given to us at baptism and confirmation. I ask, Lord, that you please bless Gozia, Chanel, and Patricia for their time, for their sacrifice, for their honesty, for their sincerity. Lord, the church is your bride, and you love her. And I thank you, Jesus, that you're not only with us, that you're for us. We ask that you would give us hearts like you, that would break your heart, that would break our heart. The sin of racism, that would break our heart, Jesus. That you have sons and daughters who don't know their dignity or worth. That you love them. Please give us hearts of power, self-control, of love, of peace, of justice, of mercy. That we would be your face and your hands and your heart to the world. And Mother Mary, we entrust all of this to you as the mother of the church, please protect us from your mantle. Please crush the head of Satan, and please always teach us how to allow the kingdom of God to live more fully in us. As we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is
The Lord is with
blessed art thou amongst women, blessed is the fruit of
you.
Holy Mary.
In
the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Let's see how to end this.